Today we will discuss an example of another hypothetical for the sake of argument. We previously discussed the situation of an occupying soldier who invaded their neighbor's country. Today we are talking about a hypothetical student protest. The reason that we call these examples hypothetical is because not only is the Ukrainian government not involved in the Federation, but also any neighbor can be invaded by a despot seeking to create an empire. This is not a phenomenon that is specific to the Russian people and their corrupt, neglectful leaders. Most governments are designed to neglect some large number of people in service to a privileged few, so it would be unjust to characterize this as a solely Russian problem. In fact, when governments emerge that do start to serve their people better, great efforts are taken to undermine and overthrow their democracy and install a regime that is more favorable to the fossil fuel industry and their allies. This is why it makes sense that so few governments serve the interests of their people. The example today is one about student protests that clearly takes influence from the Tiananmen Square massacre. Again, this is to present a hypothetical situation in which a mature federation could impact similar situations everywhere, because authoritarianism is not limited to the Chinese government. Authoritarianism can crop up in any country under many names and economic models if people are not empowered and vigilant to defend their rights as free citizens. Any criticism of nations on this channel is targeted at the administrations that engage in the behaviors outlined, not the people themselves that have authoritarianism inflicted upon them by military and police states. In the past, the response to protests has always been to send in the troops or militarized police to subdue the protesters, while the media villainizes them as lazy, entitled, anti-civilization and decency, or even going so far as to call people speaking out against injustice terrorists. This is all to make way for the militarized response that was always coming. Interestingly, while the Chinese government has gone to great lengths to erase Tiananmen Square from their history books, as many authoritarians do, the Chinese people have adapted their form of protest so that they do not take to the streets, where they are vulnerable to a military response. Instead, they are using social media to organize social movements, such as the lying flat and let it rot movements. While generally these are characterized as traits of laziness and entitlement, because these specific approaches do not involve protesters in the streets, there is no large group of people against which to unleash that militarized response. It has created, in effect, a social media organized strike against the Chinese Communist Party's economic policies, while presenting no crowd for state violence to attack. While in the US today we have the First Amendment, we often see that right is undermined in our leaders' pursuit of greater power over the people on behalf of Wall Street interests rule over our society. This creates not a system of rights, but a system of privileges that you get to keep as long as they do not threaten the interests of Wall Street profits. Of course, when people protest the rule of Wall Street over our society, corporate media labels them as lazy and entitled. Propaganda outlets use the same strategies whether they are working for the CCP or for a board of billionaires. Much like the lying flat or let it rot movements, the Federation can give people a voice to speak out against the corrupt systems and people that seek to subjugate them, while denying the military or police a crowd to shoot at. But unlike these movements, the Federation has a distinctly capitalist approach. By offering people the opportunity to engage those anti-democratic forces through free market competition. Using the Federation as a vehicle for protest through competition, Rather than letting everything rot that you and your forebears have built under your ruling oligarchs, you can rebuild your town, region, or nation for and by the people by pushing amoral Wall Street business leaders out of the market and leaving equitable businesses to serve their communities and justly compensate their employees. People often ridiculed those who tried to effect social change using social media until the Arab Spring, at which point controlling the discourse of social media became the goal of every fossil fuel despot in the world, so that social media would never come to threaten their interests within their own borders. This is what brings us to the brink of global war today. After all, war drives a lot of profit and fossil fuel consumption. Nothing puts off a climate solution like the promise of mass murder and genocide. Rather than let it rot, the Federation says, let's rebuild, and this is how we can do it if you are interested. If the corporate media wants to characterize Federation supporters as lazy because they are working to rebuild our infrastructure, schools, and healthcare without waiting for permission from Wall Street, they are free to do so. If political leaders want to accuse the Federation of dividing people by calling out the corrupt inaction of our leaders, we welcome it, because that means at least they have heard of the Federation enough to be afraid for their jobs. If you just want the benefits of a mature Federation in the form of UBI, healthcare, retirement, and other services, the Federation is here to serve you. If you want to send a message to the corruption in your capital and on Wall Street, while not making yourself vulnerable to tear gas and bullets, the Federation is here to broadcast that message. Not in the streets, but on the free market, democratically governed by and for the people. If you want to put corrupt leaders and billionaires out of business and put Wall Street on notice, that is a message we look forward to delivering together. Please like, comment, share, and subscribe to spread the word on how to protect your family, community, and the world from the system oligarchs believe you deserve, specifically one under their despotic rule. Carry water for billionaires or for those you care about? Now you have a choice on the free market of ideas. Let's take back our better future. Like lie flat or let it rot, we can create an alternative movement and call it Let's Rebuild.